Yo, welcome back to another video. Now this video, me making this, has gone all over the place. Initially, it was just going to be briefly going over Lfelt and then creating a team based around her to make her really good post-nerf, but I've ended up just going way too in depth on Lfelt alone, and there's a lot of information within this video, so I kind of want to split these two things up. I'll make another video going over creating teams around her, but for now this is just basically going over Lfelt post-nerf. She is still very good. With the amount of information that is in this video, it will give off similar vibe to my Burb familiar video if you have seen that. So with that being said, let's get straight into this video. Alright, first off, let's look at Lfelt, going over her kit abilities and what she does as a unit on a team. So her first passive is Heavy Metal Wife. Anytime a video game character uses meter or gauge, increases their damage by 30% for one attack. She can buff herself with this whenever she uses her meter. Her second passive, Stinger's Arsenal. If this unit's previous attack is different from the attack it is currently performing, buffs this unit damage by 50% and range by 20% for 5 seconds. Her third passive, Okizeme. Anytime this unit consumes meter, once the current attack is finished, it follows up with attack 1 with a 5-second local cooldown. First active ability, Love Shot, consumes 2 bar or 200% meter. Any non-boss enemies hit by this are converted into allies from where they were hit with 10% of the enemy's HP and can convert up to a total of 20 enemies per shot with 3 shots per match. Her second active ability is a Shotgun Loop. This consumes 30% meter to immediately do an attack too. Alright, now that we have gone over her kit, what is her role within a team? Lfelt is a boss killer slash burst damage user that utilizes her Shotgun Loop active to enable her first and third passive that feeds into her second passive, creating a larger damage loop. As long as she has enough tension, she can continue to do a large damage loop until she runs out. She is there essentially for not overall great damage at all times, but when it does come down to a boss being spawned or a very high HP target, she will be there to clean house with it basically. Now that we have the brief overview of Lfelt sorted, it is time to start breaking her stats down a little bit more. The first thing that I want to talk about is the familiar that she will want to have. To be able to build tension at a reasonable rate, you would want to have a Black Spirit familiar on her. There isn't a minimum requirement percentage of Black Spirit that you would want for Lfelt, but do keep in mind that the higher percentage you do have, the better it is for Lfelt. So now on screen I will have a table showing all the tension breakpoints for Lfelt at certain percentage of Black Spirits, but for this video and going forward I will be focusing on 3 specific breakpoints, this being no familiar, 60% and 100% familiar. Now of course if you do have over 100% it is better, but I'm just showing an example from a lower point, so that is why I'm doing it like this. At no Black Spirit, she has a base tension gain of 5% and requires 40 attacks to reach full tension. At 60% it is 8% tension gain with 25 attacks, and at 100% Black Spirit she has 10% tension gain and is 20 attacks to get full tension. The next thing that we'll be looking at after we now know her tension gauges at certain breakpoints is the time that it takes Lfelt to reach 200% tension from 0. Now as a baseline variable, we will be using Lfelt as if she was at 0 tension already maxed, so she'll be attacking every 5.5 seconds when she is maxed with Z plus SPA and Monarch. So the times that it would take Lfelt to reach 200% gauge would be 220 seconds or just under 4 minutes with no Black Spirit. It would take 138 seconds or just over 2 minutes with a 60% Black Spirit, and it would take 110 seconds or just under 2 minutes with a 100% Black Spirit. These are the rough estimates of downtime essentially for when Lfelt is just finished her damage looping, or of course if she is first building up her tension gauge. So now that we have Lfelt's downtime when building her tension, let's look at the estimated times that you would have when doing damage loops and the total expected damage during those times. To keep everything at a baseline with the variables, for all of these examples we are using her ability once every 2 seconds. This allows enough time for follow-ups and also auto attack resets to go through to gain even more tension during those times of shooting her ability from 200% tension to 0, and once we get to 0 we stop using her ability. This does not mean that the boss has left Lfelt's range, it's just purely going from a full bar of tension to no bar of tension. The damage that we will be using is her Monarch damage with Z plus stats. This is under the assumption that every single one of her actives is with her full passive buff active with no external support, totaling to roughly 241,900 920 damage. Before we do get into the stats, I did test in-game myself with a 125% Black Spirit on an auto clicker with 2 seconds, and I was able to do 17 abilities before reaching 0% tension. So I believe that these stats are fairly accurate examples, but do keep in mind that I did simulate these instead of testing them in-game myself, so they could ever be so slightly off. This is just to give you an overall idea of what the rotations would look like. So with no familiar, Lfelt is using 8 abilities, 3 follow-ups, and doing 2 auto resets during that time before reaching 0% tension, lasting 16 seconds. This rotation is roughly doing 2.66 million damage, estimating to 166,000 DPS. With a 60% familiar, Lfelt is using 11 abilities, 4 follow-ups, and 3 auto resets before reaching 0% tension, lasting 20 seconds. This rotation is roughly doing 3.63 million damage, estimating to 181,000 DPS. Now with 100% familiar, Lfelt is using 14 abilities, 5 follow-ups, and 4 auto resets before reaching 0% tension, lasting 26 seconds. This rotation is roughly doing 4.59 million damage, estimating to 176,000 damage. So looking at the DPSs once you reach a certain point in familiars, it does start to get lower, but this does not mean that it is worse. This is only occurring because you are able to extend the damage loop rotation for a longer time, which would still overall equate to more damage than if you were to only use the Black Spirit that has the highest DPS. One other thing that I would like to mention is if you have seen Migo's video about a consistent damage loop for Lfelt, I will have it linked down below if you would like to check it out yourself. So if you have at least a 90% Black Spirit on Lfelt and are using her ability every 6.3 seconds, this can also be used with an auto clicker. You'll be able to consistently keep a damage loop without losing any tension for roughly 99,000 DPS. Note overall, this is considerably worse than if you were to use the higher damage loop, but what we can do is we can incorporate both of these damage loops together. You would initially start off using your high DPS damage loops to burn down your tension, and once you are nearly out of tension, you would swap over to doing the consistent damage loop method so you don't lose your tension towards the end, and this lets you continue to damage the boss for a more consistent DPS while the boss is in the range of Lfelt, so her DPS doesn't significantly just fall off if you were to completely stop using her damage loop altogether. Or the other thing you can do, of course, is once you do run out of tension while the boss is still in range, you'll just use your ability as soon as you can when her tension is built up enough again until the boss runs out of Lfelt's range. Now the last thing that I would like to mention is talking about her love shot ability. Personally, overall, I don't really think it's too much worth using outside of when doing a love shot would do more damage overall than doing a full shotgun loop rotation, which you would not really find outside of really high wave and infinite or in PvP. That is the 2 places where I would use my love shot, and if I were to use love shot, I would most likely not have Monarch on my Lfelt, but if I were to just use Lfelt in a general use, I would much prefer having Monarch on her just because it makes resource management a lot easier than if you were to have to juggle 3 of them. So with that being said, this is pretty much the end of the video. It did take me a little while to get done. I had to do a bunch of research and making sure I did have everything correct, plus a bit of procrastination and when it came to editing this video, but hopefully you have enjoyed watching this far through. I will get onto doing the teams video eventually, probably within a day or 2. Hopefully it might take me a couple days to also complete as well, so I will get it done. I do have something this weekend that I am going to be doing as well, so it might be till after unless I somehow pump it out today, but that's unlikely. But yeah, I appreciate it if you have watched this far through the video. See ya.